All right, everybody. So let's get back to some cycling talk. So I've been, of course, training a lot, riding, and I'm back on Strava here. So you can see here's my Strava dashboard. Just go to me. Let's see. All right. So this is my activity. And today I did this ride. I've been riding, trying to ride every morning about 10 miles or so before I go to work. And I'm working with my Sunship, that's my bicycle. My favorite bike. It's my only bike. Well, I have more than one, but this is the one that I'm using. The other ones are kind of like not functional right now. And so I'm always recording my activities. Here's a snip from some of my recent activities. So this is basically prior to ski season when I started focusing primarily on skiing, training, and doing ski related stuff. And this was where I was using the one speed, really heavy steel, what is it, a Schwinn racer. And if you look at my cadence there, I was averaging around 60 RPMs. Um, and I was still having a good time. Had some good speeds with that bike, of course, because the gear was a little higher than, say, the lowest gears I use now when I'm climbing hills and stuff. So my legs were in really good shape then. So I was lucky that I got some good speeds, but of course my cadence was slower, and that's something that's not good when you're cycling because you want to have good cadence. So we look at now the switch to the new bike, and then this is kind of post ski season, training again. And these are all areas around Doylestown here in Pennsylvania, and I've been doing like 10, 11 miles, sometimes shorter, depending what's going on that day or if the weather's kind of bad. You can see here that my cadence has been pretty much 80. So my goal is to keep a cadence of 80. I didn't record this day. So what that means is 80 revolutions per minute. And why that's important is because it's a great cadence to have regardless of what gear you're on. If you can keep that while you're in a higher gear, you're going to go really fast. So that's my goal there, is to keep it during on a higher gear. The drawback in terms of speed is when for instance, if I'm going up a hill and trying to keep 80, obviously I'm not going to go as fast as if I was at a lower cadence. So that's where you'd see some of the times I did pretty well here because again I remember I was standing a lot when I was climbing with that other bike because it was so difficult to do. Now I rarely ever stand when I climb, but only if I'm on the wrong gear. I'll get to the gear shifting in a second. But I'm very happy that my cadence is good. And my speeds they're around 12 miles an hour, basically. So a little higher than they were then. There were a couple of exceptions there, but in general they're higher here. So they're pretty good. So I'm pretty happy. My climbing, depending, like I had a pretty high, relatively high. Again, this isn't we don't have any giant hills near where I live, or at least ones that I feel safe going up. So one of the things is safety when you're riding. There's a lot of issues where cyclists are just riding on any road. Unless you're good at hill climbing, you're going to be going side to side, and that poses dangers for you and for drivers. So that's something we have to work with. So let's go back to the Strava site. So this is I call it darn cars because it has to gave me the evil eye today. When I could have gone a little faster, I was trying to sprint, but then I had to stop at that stop sign, of course, and this driver wasn't very happy. So I called the darn cars. So this is a ride I did today. I'm kind of happy. I did some good stuff. So these are Strava. You get different segments, and you're shown how well you do on these segments. PR means a personal record. So if I broke a record in certain areas, that doesn't necessarily mean something great, but it's better than what I've done before. The ones that I was happy with are these two. So I had a personal record with this run at, I call it, I'm going to label this segment as albino deer for this deer I once saw there. Um, I don't know if it was pure. It wasn't a pure albino. I think it was like more like, can't remember, but I have a picture somewhere. We'd have to actually look it up. But it was a nice run. So I'm comparing myself against others. I moved to fourth place. I was in eighth place. So I can look at my performance here. think it's, yeah, right here over time. So here's today. It's interesting that when you see these segments and you actually start putting the effort in it, if you have the skill, you can break your previous records. And in cycling, it's not the same as skiing or playing tennis, where the skill is so evident, right? Like with tennis, if you're a poor tennis player, your technique's gonna be evident. The poor technique will be evident. Same with skiing. I have some issues that people bring up when I ski that is so evident, but that's not the same with cycling. With cycling, though, and there's a lot of things going on here. I think the most important facet in cycling is knowing how to read your muscles. So I'm always in tune with my how my legs feel when I'm riding. If they start getting tired, instead of pushing harder, if I'm not in a race, but I'm still trying to you know do well and keep, but also I need to think about the long run. So what I'll do is I'll shift to a lower gear to make my riding a little easier. So I'm spinning a little faster, and it gives me a chance to metabolize the lactic acid. So then once I get back to where I feel comfortable, then I can shift to a higher gear. When I'm riding something like this, so this path is a U shape, it goes this way. When I'm riding that, I'm constantly reading how my legs feel. And there's like sections here, like right here, that's a little bit downhill. And then at the end, it's a little bit uphill. So as I'm reading those, actually you can see the change in the altitude as you go down and up to the end. As I'm riding there, I'm feeling the changes in my legs, and then I'm making shifts, gear shifting to make sure that I'm always in the correct gear so I can maintain that 80 revolutions per minute. Now, here's one of the interesting things about cycling in terms of skill. Skill comes when you can shift gears in the correct time. What you don't want to hear is the gear shift. And I hate, like, to me, whether it was driving a stick shift manual car transmission or cycling, I hate hearing my gear shift. I mean, really hearing like a crack, tick, tick, that's bad. It should be very easy and done so that you can barely hear and definitely barely notice the change. So what you have to do is anticipate when things are going to happen and shift just before that. Should never be on a hill climbing and then say you're in the wrong I think the what do they call those chain I forgot the name, sorry, name of the gear in the front, uh chain ring. I think it's called chain ring in the front of the right where your pedals are. You shouldn't be on the upper chain ring and then decide, oh, I need to go on the lower one. That's because it can be a mess. You need to anticipate that in advance, what makes it really easy to shift. You never want to disrupt your cadence when you're cycling. So you got to try to keep it going at the same rate all the time. So a lot of it has to do with anticipating, has to do with knowing your body and knowing how your legs feel at any given time. I personally haven't had any issues with getting tired overall physically while I'm cycling, regardless of the terrain. I haven't gone on any really long rides yet either. So let's be clear on that. I mean, since I got back into cycling, I haven't gone over like 12 miles. That's like nothing, right? For what I used to do when I was younger. I mean, I rode from like regularly, I'd ride from uh, Pacific Beach in San Diego, up Mount Soledad, down to La Jolla, up just I think it was Route 1. Is that like Pacific Highway, Pacific Coast Highway? I think that's what it's called. I go up past Del Mar to Solana Beach. And then when I felt really, really good, I'd keep on going into Camp Pendleton. You could actually go through Camp Pendleton. I don't know if you still can or not. San Onofre, and then whatever the town is. I forgot what the town is right after that. I can't remember. It's Laguna Beach or no, maybe or whatever it was, but right up there, and then I'd come back. So I mean, I used to ride a lot, and I haven't started that again yet, mostly because the terrain around me is just. I mean, terrain's fine, but I'm not really a big fan of riding on roads anymore. So I try to stick with minimal road riding and just mainly focus on trails just for my safety. There's a lot of cyclists and car interactions that are pretty bad these days. But anyway, so this was a good good ride here. So I was able to move from eighth to fourth place. I like that. And then here, there's another one that I was pretty happy with was the Chamonix Creek path. I like that one. So this goes right by a creek, and usually you see a lot of animals there, deer, bunnies, and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. So I'm like 423 out of, so this is out of everybody, regardless of age. It hasn't, this year, though, it hasn't been big yet. I mean, still early. I'm sure as we move forward, we'll have a lot more people riding. I think people are still kind of deterred by the cold. Sometimes it gets really cold in the morning. Like I have to stop and, put on my glove liners in addition to my cycling gloves. But this is a nice trail. Let's see. So, I did a little bit better today. Been working on this area. Again, managing my shifting here. I stay with the larger chain ring, so I'm at a higher gear. So that's my goal, is just to stay on that one. And there's times when I have to go to the lower chain ring when the hills get there's a hill at the end of this right here. You can see that it's a quick climb. So I have to shift to a lower gear up here. I try not to as much as I can. Try to stay in the larger chain ring for higher gears, but then I don't want to burn it out yet here, because you have to think when you're riding about the whole ride, not just about that moment. Now, that brings me up to something else interesting I was thinking about today. I want to talk about stopping. See, I don't stop when I ride unless I have to. You stop by pedaling again to metabolize the lactic acid. So, I mean, I don't know how everybody is. Everybody's different, but for me, when I stop, I get tight and I don't like starting again. So I'd prefer not to stop if I don't have to. And I used to always do that. All right, let's look at how I'm doing in terms of the leaderboard here. Blah, blah, blah. So it's 423 out of 1021. So this is all time, but some of these rides were a long time ago, 2017. So there's 2016. So some of these were a while back. This year, well, let's look at my age group. In my age group, 87 out of 229. Okay with that. That's fine. How about my weight class? 90 out of 174. Okay. Let's go this year. So this year I have 32 riders. So I'm 13 out of 32. Okay. And then in this year under my age class, I'm 6 of 9. In my weight class, I am number 2. So I haven't been a lot of individuals yet this year. So, it's always nice to be at a higher place. Yeah, so that's a good look at, what I've been doing cycling. I'm getting better. I'm looking for a larger ride. I'm thinking of going into New Jersey to this one area between Frenchtown and Stockton. There's this really long straightaway. Some cyclists I know who are competitive, they train there because that's a great place to train. And what I've seen, especially by the Delaware River, if you're in Jersey, it's a little bit better because at least you have these thick bike lanes. Whereas in Pennsylvania, there are no bike lanes and it's just really dangerous. Sad because that's a beautiful place to ride. And I'm not riding my bike on gravel. This isn't a gravel bike. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. More cycling to come. You know what, though? Get out there and exercise, whatever you do. That's what you need to do. You need to exercise. Stay healthy. Get good blood work.